Hope you'll forgive the sound. I'm having some trouble with my microphone, so I'm using the internal mic on my cheap ass phone. So, anyway, the other day I discovered the secrets to injectable ecdysterone. As some of you may know, I spent about 4 or 5 months injecting myself with probably 12 different versions of ecdysterone injectable. And these were ones that I've come up with myself through various research. I used a hydrogel. I've used oil-based, which is a no-go. Ecdysterone will not stay stable in oil or benzobenzoate whatsoever. So just a heads up for you experimenters out there. It's just going to separate within a half hour, no matter how you mix it, heat it, concentrations, etc. It's not a good idea. So you got to use a water preparation because it really likes to stay stable in alcohol, and you got to use enough alcohol or a solvent to keep that stable. And if you want to use a harsh solvent, that'll help, yada, yada, yada. Anyway, the other day, I was making up a sample batch for a customer, Dirtman Dan, thank you very much. He's happy with his results, gave me some good feedback, but while I was making it, I used about half the volume of what I had been using for my overall preparations. I just set things to the minimum of solubility because as long as the cyclodextrin is 100% soluble in the water, when it reaches that saturation point, a little beyond, you're good to go. And the same thing with the glycerin and the ecdysterone. So as long as they're soluble and they're staying in their respective solutions, they will complex correctly. So knowing this, I made that up thick like that, a higher concentration, and it turned out to be about 136 milligrams per milliliter of complex water-based ecdysterone, which that's a great amount for an injectable. But the problem is, okay, and here's the other secret. That's secret number one, is that it can be done. But secret number two is that it will not stay in solution in your body, and here's why. Testosterone propionate. Okay, now what does testosterone propionate have to do with ecdysterone? Well, 99% of the time, testosterone propionate is sold and distributed in 100 milligrams per milliliter preparations. Okay, and oftentimes they will use like a harsh solvent to keep that in solution, even at that low concentration. Okay, most other testosterones are sold at 200 or 250 before they start having to add in the nasty stuff to keep it in solution. So at 100 milligrams per milliliter, when you inject testosterone propionate, now it may be stable in the bottle, but once you inject it, everybody talks about that irritation they get from it, the inflammation. Remember Carrot Top when he was all jacked up and he had the tit coming off of his shoulder? That was from injecting testosterone propionate. What happens is about 50 milligrams per milliliter will stay in solution and leave with the oil if you're using the correct oil. But everything beyond that, the prop crystals will actually stay in the muscle fibers, causing irritation, which gets encapsulated by collagen. And that's scar tissue that forms around the propionate crystals in order to protect your body from this foreign substance that it's detecting. Now, if it was just with oil, it would just be dissipating and that process would be smooth. But as we all know, there's not very much smooth prop out there, right? So keep that in mind when we're talking about ecdysterone, because even though the ecdysterone is soluble and stable in its water-based solution, it doesn't mean that it's going to stay that way in your body, because just like propionate, the water, glycerin, and the benzyl alcohol will leave far before the actual all of the actual ecdysterone will. In fact, complexing ecdysterone will actually cause it to release more slowly from the injection site. Normally, this would be a good thing, but with this, because the body likes to absorb water so readily, and especially in alcohol, right? Glycerin is a sugar alcohol. It'll pull that out first, leaving you with something that your body is like, this is a foreign matter, I need to encapsulate it. And when I was injecting, I would actually get swollen lymph nodes at my hip if I injected a subdermal in my thigh or something like that. If the injection went bad and my body was really reacting against it, you'd actually have swollen lymph nodes at your groin, which is a scary thing to deal with and painful. So I don't recommend it. Those are the two secrets, okay? So the other thing I wanted to touch on real quick was, well, how it's going with the oral preparation. Now, I was injecting, and I got a very good sense of what 100% or nearly 100% bioavailability would feel like. You know, as much as my body could absorb without whatever it was leaving behind, I was getting the benefits from directly into the bloodstream. There are no oral bioavailability issues with an injectable, obviously. So I have something to compare the oral preparation against. And what I shoot for is 80 milligrams in the system per day, and that's at 6% bioavailability. So I start with something like, I think it's, oh, my math's off, but maybe 1,000 no, it's 1,200 milligrams, and then at 6% in solution with the hydroxypropyl beta cyclodextrin and complex, in addition with piperine. And that yields somewhere around 6%. Now, the feedback that I've been getting from customers is that versus like harder than last times, which they say worked well, and they like the results. I've heard good things, but they've had direct comparisons because they'll use mine afterwards and say, look, I got a similar pump, but it lasted 3 times as long. Okay, and I mentioned this in a video before, but it's not the first time I've heard this. It's not the last time. I've had some guinea pigs at my gym try it, and they're telling me the same thing. Women, men, middle-aged people, young people, they've got like kind of an undercurrent of energy, endurance, like rep endurance, okay? So I don't know what it is, other than, you know, what the studies say, which is central nervous system support. You know, it acts similar to an estradiol, but without the feminizing effect. So you're getting that, you know, neuroprotective. You're also getting just like an undercurrent of energy. That's the only way I can describe it. But and then take a look at my results for my before and after of my 6-week bulk. Now, right now, I'm not so bulky. I did keto for 5 days, and then I've been fasting for 5 days, so I'm completely drained. But, you know, still taking my Ecdy, and, you know, having some reasonable, you know, mental faculties still 5 days in. So, anyway, thanks for watching this. I hope you got something out of it, and, you know, you do whatever you want, but learn from my mistakes. I would not try injecting ecdysterone. I would just try an oral preparation. But if you're curious, and Yajit, I know you're still working on it, I would highly encourage you to just, you know, use your own discretion. But after more thought about it, I think that's kind of what's happening. Is we're just losing the water and the carrier quicker than we're losing the product in the system. It's just hard to keep it all together. If it was an oil, we could use a thicker oil so that release slowly, but you know, unless you got a way to thicken water, which hydrogel, I guess. But in my experience, that still left lumps. So I was kind of, you know, one way or the other. I couldn't get around it. I just wanted to share my experiences and maybe save some pain and lumps. Thanks.